and the NBA is negotiating the rights that include the WNBA product, rights are going to go up. It's a league that is expected to lose around $50 million this year. You've got all of the momentum with Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and eyeballs on the season itself. Who's going to win Rookie of the Year? We've got Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark about to team up in the All-Star game. The product has never been better, and it should continue to rise. Reports are that Disney and Amazon will be included in this, in the rights deal. They will get the option to air games for the WNBA. That's included. It's expected that the league could add 2 more media partners to this rights package that currently includes ION and CBS, which Chad found, by the way. Went and sought out ION. That's how popular the WNBA is currently. They're negotiating their CBA coming up. And the players will get a bigger piece of the pie, it's expected, based on this deal that is roughly $200 million per year in a negotiation that the WNBA commissioner was hoping just to double the rights, which was right now $50 million. $2.2 billion now is what it moves to over 11 years. And Chad, this is why I say expected, because again, the NBA, they decide on the money that they're going to hand off to the WNBA and the rights package for the sliver that it is. Why? Well, they own 60% of the league. And it was included in the negotiation package through Adam Silver and the association for the W. But this is fantastic, and it goes on to show the rise of the popularity of this league. And over the next 11 years, after 2027, there's an agreement built into this where the networks and the NBA will come back with the WNBA and revisit the money that is allotted to the league based on the growth of the league. So it could get even more before this package is even up.
Yeah, it's like a good faith renegotiation after a certain amount of time to see if it continues to go up and up. Great news for the WNBA, and I'm assuming I don't have their collective bargaining agreement and everything in front of me.
They don't have it either. They're about to have it.
So their salaries are going to go up, right?
Right now, rookies make around $80,000.
Media, I know Angel Reese, I think it was reported as making a little over $73,000 a year.
I think the average is like $80,000.
So
the cap.
They're going to get paid more, which is great news for them too.
Right now, and just reading through other articles that were out prior to this report on what they were going to make, that the WNBA makes about 40% of the media rights package. The NBA profits from it. There are other investors that profit from it as well. This will continue to rise, and you're not going to see them losing money moving forward.
Yeah, it goes from an era of subsidies where they're being subsidized by the NBA to now the NBA is going to start to make some of their money back that they've been investing on the WNBA. So they've seen the other side of this, we think.
Yeah.
Certainly it looks that way, and I don't think the interest in Caitlin Clark is really going down. You know, we thought this would be a couple weeks here or there, that it'd be a storyline, but it has stood the test of time so far this season. And Hutton, I don't think this is just a rookie year type thing.
Well, as long as the storylines continue.
If that team continues to get better and better as they have over the course of the year, and next year they're better, and then they're competing for WNBA titles, it's going to be a story. And she's going to be a story.
She's headed to NASCAR. She's going to be on one of the cars racing in Indianapolis, hosting the NASCAR race at the Brickyard this week. Been a while since they've been to the Brickyard. They're back. And you have Josh Berry in the Ford number 4, Chad, with Caitlin Clark on the hood. Why? Well, his main sponsor is promoting her trading card. And with it being in Indy, and of course the tie-in there, it's a no-brainer that you put Caitlin Clark on the car if you're promoting the trading cards and one of your highest and best and most popular stars that you could have right now for your product.
That's a good crossover, by the way. I feel like, honestly, NASCAR and Caitlin Clark fans.
Has there been a face of someone on a car before? I'm not sure.
Oh, I'm sure. Someone.
I can't think.
Did Michael Jordan ever put his face on his car that he owns in NASCAR? Didn't do that?
I mean, I'm trying to think of all the
missed opportunity.
All the options they would have over the years.
Has a face ever been on a NASCAR?
Someone's name has certainly been on it. but I can't think of like any figure that just has their name, image, and likeness on the NASCAR in the NASCAR Cup Series. It's interesting. It's a short list, whatever it is. I know that. Caitlin Clark is going to hit the NASCAR circuit.
NASCAR driver plans to race car with his giant hairy face on it.
So
this is from 2019.
The driver?
Yeah, I'm trying to read more to figure out. This is apparently a British website that has this. So we'll look to verify.
The other interesting thing is
the Brits are wily when it comes to their news coverage, even more so than the Americans. You never really know what to trust.
The owner of this car is out of NASCAR after this season. Stuart Haas, I believe, is who it is. Chad, did you watch much of the All-Star game last night? I watched Skeen's pitch where he just gave up a walk and didn't give up a run in the first inning, and that was it for me. How about you?
I don't care how old this makes me sound, Hutton. I took one look at the television last night and saw these god-awful uniforms that we're going to show you right now, and I couldn't watch much more. I think I watched a half an inning of this game. Major League Baseball has ruined the very fabric of the All-Star game. First off, I said before, venue matters to me for the All-Star game. I was watching old footage of an All-Star game with Pete Rose at Tiger Stadium back in the day. Old Tiger Stadium in Detroit. Awesome. Looked incredible. I don't get excited about Globe Life, whatever, in Arlington, Texas. Sorry, Rangers fans, just don't. So the venue did not really appeal to me. That aside, the appeal of the All-Star game for years was American League versus National League, and they don't play each other unless it's in the World Series. Well, interleague play years ago changed that. Now the balanced schedule has really changed that, where the leagues really don't matter. Everyone's got a DH, and everyone plays each other. So the novelty of a pitcher facing a hitter they otherwise would not see is completely gone. At least give us the novelty back of being able to identify players by their team. Because you can look on the field and see, oh, the American League is the home ballpark. They're in white uniforms. The National League is the visiting team. They're in gray uniforms. Every Major League Baseball team, it's mandated they have a white uniform and a gray uniform. That was perfect for the All-Star game for years. This is another classic example of allowing money to ruin something. Because what Major League Baseball wants to do is let's show this thing again because it's it's a war crime. This photo, these uniforms, it's terrible. And the hats were even worse. I don't know who likes these uniforms, but someone does because someone's going to buy them. And that's why they created them.
I'd love to see the price, the revenue off of this.
They want to sell these uniforms. They want to sell these hats. That's why they create them. That's why they wear them during the game. I want to go back to the days of the Major League All-Star game featuring teams wearing their actual uniforms for the game. I love that part of the game for years and years. Get back to that. Then I turn on the TV and I see, hey, that's a Milwaukee Brewer up to bat. Hey, that's a Pittsburgh Pirate pitching. That's a San Francisco Giant. Great brand identity, and you get to see who the players are without having to search through a horrendous uniform that looks like the one color scheme was created in 1991 when every team in sports that was introduced had a teal-type color scheme. Terrible. Get back to uniforms that we know.
Yeah, and this is why they do they have the military night. They have the Pride issued uniforms or jerseys or whatever they're doing across the NHL or what they were doing, just to add more revenue. And this is, I mean, no one's going to buy this compared to the All-Star patch that you could get for your favorite player, right? You could individualize some of the actual sport instead of making everything so, pardon the pun, uniform, which is what this league has been. They need more of what we saw when Skeens was on the mound. They have a star in the making who has had a great start to his Major League Baseball career. And even the manager for the NL was saying that. It's like it's a no-brainer. We get to build a star, and he's off to the races in that. And then twice, at least that I saw, they're showing Livvy Dunne, which is smart, while he's on the mound. And then while he's walking off the mound to the dugout, they're also showing Livvy Dunne, another cutaway to her. That's brilliant. That's what this league needs more of. I don't want a ton of it, but right now they need a ton of it. And they get that in that moment. They capitalize on it, and I like the way that the broadcast crew treated it as well.
Paul Skeens was awesome. I love the idea of having, and I did see this part, David Ortiz just go into the dugouts and talk to guys during the game, and because of his personality. Let's give the guys a heads up on who he's talking to, because I think some were surprised the level that they had no personality, and I bet some of these guys have better personality. It was actually pretty cool watching Poppy talk to Vlad Guerrero Jr., and they just spoke Spanish to each other the entire time. But that was the most personality I saw. I don't speak Spanish, but they were having fun with each other. They were laughing, they were talking, and it was in a foreign language. But everyone else they interviewed was very surprised to have a camera in front of them while they were in the dugout and did not display a ton of personality. I did not love that part of the broadcast coverage.
Yeah, it sucks because that's kind of the...
But I like the idea of it because that's what the All-Star game should be. It should be more fun. Like, I love the mic'd up, where they get a guy on mic
field?
during the field.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's cool. That's what an All-Star game should be. These hokey uniforms are terrible. The new ones they have also across the league, Hutton, is the City Connect uniform, and a lot of teams are wearing them once a week this year. Some are pretty cool. The Seattle Mariners comes to mind, which is kind of a mix of a throwback Mariners jersey with something new. The Braves one, I think, is really cool. It says the A in the middle of it. They wear on Friday night.
There's a lot.
Some of them are cool. Just in general, I think when Major League Baseball tries to get futuristic or new, they fail. When they go throwback, it's cool. When you have an All-Star game in Fenway Park, it's neat. When you have throwback uniforms, it's cool. People like the old. People like the amount of time baseball has been a thing in America. Even young people, I think, gravitate more towards the high socks, the baggy uniforms at times, and the throwbacks that look that way, as opposed to some of these futuristic things Major League Baseball tries to do, like these uniforms last night, which were awful. And we got the Mariners City Connect uniform for you, Hutton. You're a Mariners fan.
Yeah.
This one's pretty cool. Not a big fan of the black pants go with it, but the jersey itself is neat. But in general, throwbacks are better for baseball, not look-aheads, not futuristic.
Jed, the Chicago Sky, they're looking ahead to 2025. Would you like to know what they sent out for season ticket holders, longtime season ticket holders?
I would like to know.
Of course, the Chicago Sky, Angel Reese, they're doing much better than they did last year. Longtime season ticket holders, just from the Chicago Tribune. Sticker price shock here. They sent out emails detailing next year's invoices would be doubled or more from this year's prices. Courtside seats in the WNBA next year compared to this year. This year, $4,500
for a season ticket.
Yes, courtside season ticket. This year, $11,000. Next year, $11,000, from $4,500 to $11,000. 18-game packages, 200 level seats, from $270 per ticket to $985 for the 18-game package. And you could
get an 18-game package this year for $275.
Yeah, this says the courtside seats, 2025 courtside, and then more affordable 18-game packages. 200 level seats jump from $270 to $985. And they, on average, in 2021, the ticket price was $43 to go to a game. Looking at this, it was $88 this year. So it's expected to be over $100 next year to get in. That plus the revenue, and the arena looks great. Again, this is just one example, but they have players in the past that have passed on signing with the Chicago Sky because the amenities for players were so awful, and they were known for being cheap.
Exponentially, it seems like it's a lot. You're looking at 4x of what your investment was this year, but it's not a lot of money. I still look at it and I think you can still get, what was it, $11,000?
That's a
season tickets for courtside season tickets.
Yeah,
and then $275 to $900. That doesn't sound like a lot to me to go to 18 games for $900 if you're into that team and Angel Reese and that storyline. Now, the test is, are they going to get it?
The average ticket price, though, is $88 this year. Right. So that's just to get in for one game.
And it's a difference, though, between people tuning in to watch Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark on TV, or now maybe watching some more televised Chicago Sky games in the Chicagoland area. there's a difference between that and spending that money to go to games.
No doubt.
So let's see if they get it.
And
good for them if they actually get people to pay those prices. But if not, then it was a miscalculation.
Well, and you've got the average cost to a Bulls game this past season, $276. Average cost.
Average cost is $43 going into this season.
Was in 2021.
Yeah.
This year's $88 this year. 88 to 276. So they're trying to level up more with what's going on across all pro sports. But that's the appeal, right? Is you can go and pack a stadium or pack and you've got 20,000 going to these arenas especially whenever Angel Reese is faced off against Clark.
I was once a huge Bulls fan in the era of Michael Jordan, like a lot of guys my age, big Bulls fan. If that number of the Chicago Sky tickets passes the price of the Bulls ticket on average, the Bulls should be relegated to the G League at that point.
That was the average
price. I love all this interest in the WNBA,
it won't
but
pass that number.
If the Sky is ever greter than the Bulls in the city of Chicago, then they should be relegated.
It won't pass.
And then Bronny James could be a Bull because he'd be in the G League.
He could
be great. His hero, Michael Jordan.
And he would wear 23.
Bronny James knows who the GOAT is. It's MJ. So he would love to follow in the footsteps of Michael Jordan. He would just be playing on the Chicago Bulls in the G League after their relegation.
Chad, what was it that you sent to the text group that we're on Saturday when we saw the attempted assassination of President Trump?
I believe I texted something along the lines of, he just won the presidency.
Yeah.
He won the election when he survived the assassination.
There's practically nothing.
I think it cemented it.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah. And I felt like with the way President Biden has been, it wasn't going to get any better for their campaign. It was going to get worse because he's going to continue down this path.
It was looking good for Donald Trump before.
Yeah.
That, to me, made it a 100% certainty.
It felt obvious.
Yep.
Here's Stephen A. Smith also saying that.
In my opinion, the shooter, he just handed Donald Trump the election. That is what I believe. Of course, I don't know that as fact. Of course, things could change. But in my opinion, he just handed Donald Trump the election. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't buy, I've been in media for 30 years, you can't buy a better photo than what Donald Trump has at his disposal as we speak. He goes to the ground. He's got blood on his right ear, looked like it got nicked, which is what he said, it pierced his ear. He gets up. He looks disheveled. All right? Clearly taken aback by what happened, and rightfully so. Blood trickling down his ears and the right side of his face. Surrounded by Secret Service agents. Raises his fist, is shriveling, cringing his face up, fight, fight, fight. He says it 3 times. And while raising his fist, surrounded by Secret Service agents, the American flag is behind him. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't buy that. You can't buy a better photo than that if you're a politician. You can't buy a better photo than that. Look at the video of him raising his fist. Look at the crowd going crazy behind him. Look at them saying, yeah, 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 And then listen to the pundits on TV talking about how strong, how vibrant, how courageous. And they were using these words. And not coincidentally, it was the antithesis of what they've been saying about President Biden.
Chad, Stephen A. mentions the photo that we discussed Monday. In historical just context here, what comes to mind of historical photos for you? Just total, it doesn't have to be political. For me, it's the guys on their lunch break when they're building the skyscraper.
That's one.
In New York.
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali standing over someone he's knocked out.
Sonny
right?
Liston.
Sonny Liston. And you've got the angle of that and the emotion and the competitive nature of Ali over the top of it.
Iwo Jima, the soldiers putting the flag up all together.
Yes. Yeah.
That's another one.
You mentioned the flag.
The story behind Flags of Our Fathers, the book.
9/11.
That's about everyone in that photo.
Ground Zero with the flag.
Yeah.
And putting that up there. The kiss in Times Square when soldiers get back from the war. There's many of them, right? This one, I mean, when you just think of the presidency, where we are, and just the way that this is framed that we're looking at, this is that. This is right up there with those that come to mind. Not just because you lived through it, because I'm listing some things that I've only seen. I wasn't living through it at the time. But, yeah, I mean, this is right there, if not at the top, based on the symbol of our country and what it stands for and who represents us as a nation.
Well, I mean, look, anybody could, say anything really slow and with a lot of authority and this and that about that, the way Stephen A. Smith did. It doesn't change the fact that we were saying this on Monday because it's true. Right. I mean, he's talking about the adjectives used to describe that moment and that photo. These are obvious things, and they're right.
Yes.
I mean, the dude was shot in the ear, and he's standing up, demanding to get his shoes back and pumping his fist with blood on his face.
They're telling him to duck down.
And saying, fight, fight, fight. Yeah. To the crowd. I mean, that's as badass as you're going to get. So, yeah.
And in the moment responding to the crisis.
And yes, it's the antithesis of Joe Biden getting helped off the stage by his wife and being told which direction to go all the time. I mean, these are obvious things. I guess because Stephen A. Smith says it and it's on ESPN, because people think ESPN's all liberal or this and that. Oh, that wasn't even on ESPN?
No.
So on his podcast he said that? Then, yeah, I mean, he's stating the obvious. This is not...
Everyone's got to say
this is not breaking news. Like, this is... Yeah, I believe he's won the election right now. Unless there's some rabbit in the hat that we're not aware of that's going to come out of nowhere to run against Donald Trump. The dude just survived an assassination attempt and has the most iconic photo of the last 20 or 30 years.
I mean, beyond that, man. It's
plastered all over every website and talked about on evening news everywhere, every single night. And it's the opposite of the old man on the other side right now. And I'm not making fun of Joe Biden because I think he's actually declining.
Everyone's saying.
And ill.
Yes.
And I hate that, and it's very sad. But, yeah, it's the extreme opposite on Donald Trump right now.
So from Trump to college football, Deion Sanders. Chad, you're either in or you're out with primetime. I don't think there's anyone like on the fence with, do you like what he's doing in Colorado or don't you like the emotion, the pageantry, all that about the sport of college football, paired with the attitude and confidence and cockiness of what Colorado football is, right? Paul Finebaum, SEC Media Day is going on. Paul Finebaum on SEC Network saying this about Deion, who's being discussed, by the way, a 4-win team last year, being discussed while they're hosting a show in Dallas for SEC Media Days.
Back on that for a second. Anyone asking whether Deion Sanders and Colorado are close to the playoffs simply doesn't understand the reality of the road. They're not going to the playoffs this year, and I'm not sure Deion Sanders is ever going to get them to the playoffs because I don't think he has the patience to stay at Colorado long enough. There's so many misconceptions out there. Deion Sanders is the best salesman I've ever seen. I personally love the guy and for what he stands for, but the program looking out has a ridiculously inflated view of itself. I heard Shedeur Sanders, who's a fabulous quarterback, say last week, we are everyone's Super Bowl. Shedeur, you are not. You are an easy win nowadays. You got off to a phenomenal start last year, beating a couple of mediocre teams that had big names. And quite frankly, you haven't done anything since other than crash and burn. So I know that the media loves this story. We fall all over ourselves. But Colorado isn't important in college football. Deion Sanders is. He's a standalone person. He's one of the most charismatic people we've ever seen. But Colorado is nothing. They don't matter. They're irrelevant in the big picture of college football.
Do you think he will eventually take all these players that he's accumulated through the transfer portal and beyond and get to a college football playoff berth?
Shay, to answer your question, I think it depends on how long Deion Sanders stays at Colorado. If he's there for 5 years, I think he will eventually get them to the college football playoff. Now, to address some of that ether that Paul Finebaum just directed at Deion Sanders, Colorado is everybody's Super Bowl. The reason that they are the Super Bowl is because all eyes are on them. I still remember Dan Lanning telling his locker room that Colorado was there for clicks and they're there for wins, right? They knew that they went out there with a vengeance and they did blow them out, but they played harder in that game than they played in any other game of the season. So if Shedeur in his mind is saying that, hey, Colorado is everyone's Super Bowl because they think they're so great, I can kind of see where Paul is going. But he's saying in the sense of everyone wants to beat them into the ground because they do have the number one quarterback in the nation. And they do have the number one wide receiver and cornerback in the nation in Travis Hunter. And they do have the biggest personality at the head coach position in Deion Sanders.
There's RG3 giving the response to Finebaum. Finebaum saying they're not relevant. They are because of the numbers. They're relevant because the fans are watching games with Deion Sanders on the screen. We know that.
Well, they're relevant because his own network, ESPN, is asking him a question about it at SEC Media Days.
Yeah, no doubt.
So your network is making him more relevant.
But see,
they're relevant.
From Paul's stance, though, he doesn't have to talk and discuss Deion all that much based on what he's discussing every day with his show, with this SEC Southeastern approached show. He will, though, when Deion takes the Florida job.
Well,
then all of a sudden,
if he wins this year,
then all of a sudden they're relevant. But again, I say that tongue in cheek. But when he enters the conference or he enters the Power 2 or Power 3, then maybe he's there. Maybe you could call it a Power 3 with what the Big 12's doing. But the Power 2, well, all of a sudden he becomes relevant, and we're still going to discuss him because, relevant now, yes. Relevant in the season, they weren't at the end of the year, and we didn't treat them that way. They were certainly relevant in September. Here's Coach Prime, who has blocked us long before apparently he's blocked.
Someone else must have read this tweet because we can't see it.
Well, someone retweeted it for us.
Good.
Yeah, it says.
Oh no, he retweeted. We couldn't see the retweet. Someone pulled this for us since we're blocked.
Yeah, it says God is good, my brother, and they mad. I sense a bit of anger and hostility.
LOL.
God bless RG3 for always keeping it 100. Now, RG3 wasn't glowing about the Colorado program, but he was about Shedeur Sanders. And here's the dynamic I'm curious about. Whenever they're on the back burner of the season and they're not playing well, but Shedeur is. He's in the Heisman discussion. He's going to be. ESPN's going to make sure of that, right? Everyone's going to be eyes on RG3, just said it, the top quarterback in the country. If that's true, he's relevant in November. Will Colorado be relevant in November? And you have the yin and the yang of how does Deion approach it for his son and as a Heisman candidate versus a team that isn't performing all that well. If both are happening in a positive light, then they're certainly relevant to counter what Paul Finebaum is saying. If they're not as a team, then what's the attitude like from within the coach's office? What's the messaging there?
Well,
the defense mechanism for son, not player.
Well, Hutton, I think, and I'll get to your point about that because that to me is the ultimate question: is what is Deion Sanders' desire to coach at Colorado if his sons aren't on the team as they move forward, and how the balance of that works. I think both guys got some things right and some things wrong. I think Paul Finebaum's right that they're not competing for a tournament spot, a playoff spot this year, and that they're not relevant in national college football as a team. They are relevant, though, as a talking point because of Deion Sanders. I think RG3 is right in that Dan Lanning and others are circling that game on their schedule to beat the shit out of Coach Prime because they don't like people coming into their sport and talking shit the way that he does. I think that's pretty common.
And that's Shedeur. Yeah, Shedeur's like
Shedeur's the same way. Like, yes, you think Nebraska fans haven't circled that game with Matt Rule versus Coach Prime? Like, he is to quote the word, the antithesis of a lot of coaches and what they talk about and how they try to build a program. So a lot of coaches are trying to destroy that level of buzz that he's created around his team and how he's trying to turn things over so fast and accomplish something so fast. So, yeah, they are the Super Bowl for certain teams. But I don't think it's because Shedeur Sanders is so great or Travis Hunter is so great. I think it's because they want to steal the spotlight from Deion Sanders and Coach Prime, who's brought the spotlight to Boulder.
And to them in some cases. Because the spotlights, Colorado State, game day and big noon kickoff were there. And Colorado State showed up that game. I will also say, and I pointed this out last year, it was fun during the first month of the season because every week felt like a build-up to the next WWE pay-per-view where you have, in a UFC title fight in a pay-per-view, where you have the build-up throughout the week, all the trash talk, all the promos. Certain cases, you've got Shador saying things. Other times, you've got Deion saying things. They're going to the other coach for the response, Dan Lanning, for instance. And then once the game's over, you have the initial post-game press conference. And then Deion took it to the next week almost immediately, where he's the next quote-unquote call-out, as you would say, to stay with this example, where then you're off to the next team trying to build and promote the next big national television brand, which is Colorado versus whoever. In terms of the spotlight, though, yeah, I mean, you want to go and ball out because, I mean, you're going to be on Fox, you know?
Yeah.
Like in some cases, 9 p.m. with 1 a.m. Eastern, there were 2 million people on average watching at 1 a.m. Eastern that game.
I don't think it's just because of I don't think coaches look at it. There's personal animus
the players.
here.
The players,
the
are going at
players
it.
want to be on TV for sure. But
But they're going after it based on the trash talk.
yeah, and also coaches just don't. Coaches are as petty as anyone in America. And Deion Sanders has done it a very different way, and he's come from it at a different angle as a former Hall of Fame player, turned TV guy, turned quick turn operator in college sports head coaching. Never as an assistant, got a head coaching job at Jackson State, parlayed that quickly into a head coaching job at Colorado. So a Dan Lanning, who is young, by the way, got a great opportunity as a young guy.
Yep.
You work your way through the ranks to GA, and you live in someone's basement. You do this and that. Those coaches that do that, which are most of these guys that have been around it for so long, they don't want to see some flashy talking guy come in out of nowhere and steal their spotlight and beat them. So there is a little bit more worked up animus with those coaches as they go against Deion Sanders.
Yep.
And that's just human nature.
And all the buildup. And what Dan Lanning said to his team pregame before before the kickoff against Colorado with Oregon spoke to that. I mean, he's saying what they're fighting for clicks, we're fighting for wins. Our game's not played in Hollywood. Our game's played on the grass. He had all these moments where he pointed out, like, they're all about the clicks, and we're trying to actually build for a national championship run. But, man, I liked it more when they were winning a bit.
I am rooting for the story here, and the story is Colorado's better than they were a year ago. And that they're winning more games, because the story was awesome early on when they got off to 3-0 start, I think it was. But when you go 4-8 in the end and win one conference game, the story diminishes. If they can stay relevant and competitive with good teams on their schedule throughout the year, where you get some true wars between Coach Prime and these other coaches, that to me is the story. That's what's going to be fun. I'm a little doubtful they can do that.
But they're now in a conference where, I mean, I think you pointed out, Chad,
it could be a little bit easier for them.
The odds, whether there's one almost odds against them and odds for them to win an individual game, right? And then the rest are almost toss-ups, almost a pick 'em.
It's kind of 50-50. It's probably 6 points either way.
Which
They're
is great
favored
for
by
the conference.
6 or a 6-point underdog.
Great for the conference and great for Deion and Colorado to prove that they can back it up and actually have the building blocks to a bowl-type season.
You'd also think, if you were moving from a conference that just blew up and ended to a conference that is strong and sustaining, that the new schedule would be tougher. That's not the case. I think you could argue last year's schedule was tougher in the Pac-12 as opposed to their Big 12 schedule this year.
Especially consecutive games, like the stretch.
Yeah, USC and Oregon.
Utah.
Teams that left, they'll get Utah this year too.
And
so that's one constant.
But I'm saying they would have those back to back to back.
Yeah.
Washington State, was a storyline there too.
I mean, it's close, but I think this one might be slightly more favorable for Colorado as opposed to a year ago.
From Colorado to Washington, Kalen DeBoer, now the head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide, taking over for Nick Saban, and he took to the podium earlier today to discuss taking over in place of Nick Saban.
What was it like, and how has it been for you in your communication with Coach Saban and in terms of handling the program and frankly utilizing the resources that he has?
Yeah, well, I can't say enough about how Coach has just been so gracious in time. Anytime I've ever picked up the phone and given him a call. I think there was one time he didn't answer. But then within about 30 seconds, I think he called me back. So just knowing Coach, he's busy. He's a busy man.
Yeah.
But, I think there's that balance. And he knows that the facility is always open to him. And I want him to always feel welcome to come back to the place that he's put so much time into. But he's just been great in trying to let it also be ours, and the respect that he's had for our staff. And it doesn't need to be that way, and it's just been awesome having a resource. I know he's worked with multiple staff of ours that have come over to his office and had some conversations, and just the sharing of knowledge, whether it's our program or the game itself of football and where it's headed and what he's learned. Just an amazing resource to have right there in Tuscaloosa.
Let me share something else with you. All right, I'm never going to criticize you. Roman, defensive back, never going to criticize you. McElroy on the other hand, he thinks he should be calling the plays.
I will.
So if you don't call the plays like he wants to, it's going to be
Not
a
enough
problem.
throws, in my opinion. Need some more throws.
We're on good terms right now.
Oh, yeah.
But,
Well, you haven't played a game yet, Coach. You haven't played a game yet.
Unreal. It's tough. It's tough.
In the time that you've got there, obviously transition's hard. College football this day and age is drastically different than it has ever been. Yet you managed to hit the ground running. You managed to keep some kids in Tuscaloosa, and I know some left, but you managed to keep some there. Even brought one back, right, in Caden Proctor, and you've recruited high school really, really well. How have you hit the ground running the way you have?
Well, I think it goes again back to Coach Saban and a lot of the things that were instilled in the guys in this program. And there's a deep belief, and guys like Jalen Milroe, Malachi Moore, Tyler Booker, they're the epitome of guys that believe in themselves, believe in the guys that are here. Want this program to continue to be on the greatness and the trajectory it's been on for many years. Coach just has instilled that culture of just excellence, of high expectations, but also just more importantly what it takes to get there. And so the work is the work. And these guys have been putting in the work on another level. I have an appreciation, I've heard in the media session, to the competitiveness that I've seen. And it supports the goals that they have. The action is supportive of the goals. And so these guys are just putting in the work every single day. They're competing against each other, but they're also understanding that, when they do their things against each other, they're still on the same team as they fight for positions, whether it's starter or offense versus defense, whatever it may be.
I read through, and that was Kalen DeBoer there with SEC Now. I was reading from Trey Wallace today at OutKick and his assessment of what DeBoer did around making the media rounds. He said he was even better than expected with how he handled everything. Like, if you're an Alabama fan, you should feel confident in the approach of your head coach. Of course, Saban's not going to criticize him, but he is, being honest with how he's predicting how things will go in the secondary, for instance. Players, of course, make the rounds with the coach. Here's Tyler Booker on behalf of the Crimson Tide being asked about Nick Saban's comments.
Well, something that Coach Saban taught us whenever we speak to the media is to not concern ourselves with external factors. And he doesn't work in a facility anymore. He works in a stadium, so he's considered as an external factor. So I'm not really paying attention to him.
That from Trey as well on social. How about Saban's,
by the way, that's better than any answer Kalen DeBoer gave all day that I heard from that player. That was awesome.
That's a player, though.
He's an external factor now.
Well, DeBoer hasn't been in the locker room with Saban. That's a player that Saban's still in the locker room based on that response. And with this one, where Booker went on to say, he always used to say, don't let some guy that lives in their mom's basement determine how you feel.
I like Tyler Booker.
I'm not going to let some guy who plays golf all day determine how I feel, was another one.
But to spin that back on Saban is great. He had some things to say about Alabama. He's an external factor. He taught us that, so we're not going to pay attention to him.
I can't figure out if I'm sleeping on Bama or not. Here's the thing. DeBoer mentioned, I haven't lost yet. Man, I get the vibe there's some Bama fans there. Like, you know what? Okay, we'll take a couple losses, take a few losses. We understand maybe 3 losses, 4 losses. We'll be okay. We'll get. Talk to me in the end of October when that happens. That place will be in a frenzy over their 3rd or 4th loss.
I think it's as easy as the second week of the season against Wisconsin. If they go up to Madison and lose,
week 3, I think they play early.
Is it week 3? Whenever that game is, that's the one that I'm circling.
It's their 3rd game. It might actually be week 2 though. They're playing Western Kentucky, South Florida, then Wisconsin.
Okay, so week 3.
And then they have a bye week, and
That's the first game they could lose.
They have a bye week after that. Then they face Georgia at home. One of their bye weeks right before Georgia. Their other bye week, of course, traditionally before LSU.
If they're coming home to take on Georgia,
yes,
and they've already lost
they
to
could drop
Wisconsin,
2. Right?
That feels like the last stand type thing for Alabama fans because they're so unaccustomed to losing it all.
And I would say
that they're going to freak out quick if they're 2-2.
I would say it's not if you lose, it's how you lose. That's my motto for certain programs, and it just we'll see. Georgia's schedule. I mean, their toughest games are on the road. This is one of them.
Oh yeah.
And think about Tuscaloosa if they beat Wisconsin on the road, and you go into Bryant-Denny Stadium with Georgia coming in. That is also an interesting scenario. That's your national game. I believe it's like 6 o'clock on the new TV partner. Check out the schedule here, Chad. So again, the 2 bye weeks come between Georgia and LSU, which is great for them. But the rest of it, I mean, Vandy, South Carolina, they play Tennessee again, thankfully. Missouri's toughest game is Oklahoma or Alabama. I like their schedule.
Am I dumb, or is there any way to tell where the games are being played? Oh, does it have
It does underneath.
The white marker really next to it are the ones on the road?
Doesn't it say underneath what
that's
venue it is?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah, there's a white. Okay, now I see it. The white marker next to it's the ones on the road.
Chad, I'm with you. That's been.
I've got so many thoughts on schedule gaps.
Well, no, you've not thoughts.
Also,
complaints.
it's all
you've used
vertical.
A lot for primary complaints.
Yeah, you don't need to go side to side ever.
No.
It's got to be vertical, straight down the list if you've got only a certain amount of games on a schedule. Not 2 columns, right down the line.
I mean, they should put everything in red or crimson, excuse me.
Look at all the things. I don't know that Nick Saban would have allowed this to happen if he was still in charge of the Alabama program.
It was probably decisions like this.
This is terrible schedule management on the graphics department.
What is it? Is it from Alabama? I want to be fair.
This is from Alabama, right?
I don't know.
Where you got this?
Don't know. It could be from anywhere, Jeff.
It
could be from AI.
Well, whoever it is, we're going to find out, and we're going to out these people.
We can ask AI
when we come back.
Create
whoever
the
it
best
is, because
schedule.
they screwed it up. Also, what is the C? I don't even know what that is.
It's being pointed out. I don't know what it is. Chappelle Show?
What is that? College football alerts. Never heard of them. Never want to hear of them again.
Look at them.
After this gaffe. Never want to hear about college football alerts again. Let's erase this from our Google data.
Chad,
let's not Google them again. Let's not give them any credit. Because you know what's simple about an @ sign when you put it for away games right in front of it? Very simple. Everyone knows that means when you look at a sports schedule.
It took way too much effort for this schedule for it to be so awful. Like you could create the correct schedule and make it look nice, and it looks better than this.
My high school basketball schedule would have an @ next to the game. It would be @ Laverne or @ Smyrna or @ Franklin.
I would put all the home games. I would put every logo in
crimson. And everyone
crimson.
knew what it meant. It's amazing.
Everyone else's logo should be
crimson. This is the late 90s, Hutton, and everyone knew what it meant, even back then. Oh, so many moons ago. Yet, apparently the people at College Sports Alert feel like people haven't quite grasped the @ in front of it if it's a home or away game.
Is Duff Kleiman running this website?
Or some other guy in Israel?
Yeah, I don't know. Someone that's purchased that site? Don't know. Chad, coming up, primary complaint. This is a good segue into that. We've used so many schedules, calendars, scores. Sometimes I think we've each used this over the years, the last 13 years. Someone saying the score, but giving the road score first. So it's like, and the score currently is 43-78.
No, it's anytime you don't go with the highest score first.
You got to go high.
Huge pet peeve of mine. One that I got last night, too, that I heard some people around our practice saying, not giving balls first, then strikes.
So they're
like yelling out, all right, 2 strikes, 1 ball. So I had to bring the girls that were there, and I said, if I say 2-1 count, what does that mean? And they did not know. I had to walk them through because now we're playing a level where there's girls pitching so you can walk. So the count matters.
They looked at you like you looked at David Ortiz in the dugout speaking another language.
They looked at me the way I looked at this schedule from College Sports Alert when I saw how bad it was. That's the way they looked at me. I said the first number is balls. The second number is strikes. Always. That is one thing about vocabulary we're going to say. So if coach yells out, all right, 2-2, it's 2 balls and 2 strikes. And then I went back to him. Now, if I say 0-2,
You're
what does
lucky
that
to
mean?
catch that.
And I just got silence.
You're lucky to catch
back
that.
to him and like, that would be no
We get
balls.
silence a lot.
2 strikes on that one.